So, the first trailer for the Dark Tower movie just dropped this week, and so far it looks crazy cool.
Whoa,
Who are you?
it's you. You're a gunslinger, right?
There are no gunslingers.
The Dark Tower Saga by Stephen King is one of my favorite book series, and actually the only Stephen King books I've read. The 8-book series is incredible and sprawling and massive and quite confusing. So for those who don't quite get what's going on in the trailer, I wanted to give a summary of the Dark Tower series. Right, so the protagonist is Roland Deschain, played by Idris Elba, and he is the last member of the Gunslingers, which is an ancient order descended from knights. And he's the son of the king of Gilead, the kingdom, and he's a descendant of King Arthur, and Gilead got all destroyed by a wizard sorcerer called the Man in Black, played by Matthew McConaughey, also known as Martin Broadcloak, also known as Martin O'Dim, also known as Randall Flagg, and a million other things. You might remember as the antagonist from The Stand, and he's in The Eyes of the Dragon. And according to Stephen King, he's also partially responsible for the monsters in The Mist. At the beginning of the first book, and assumedly the first movie, Roland is hunting the Man in Black across a desert. Pretty simple, and Roland is trying to find the Dark Tower, which is like the nexus of all space and time and all possible universes, because he thinks that the tower can help him save the world and set everything right. So the series kind of deals with multiple universes and what exactly is a universe, and then technically, because of all of that, all of Stephen King's books are within the universe of the Dark Tower because it involves all universes. So, like, they encounter one of the characters from Salem's Lot who actually has a copy of Salem's Lot, the book, which is written by Stephen King, who also is a character in the Dark Tower saga who is writing the Dark Tower saga while it's going on. So Stephen King is writing the saga, meets Roland and his group, which he then writes about later in the Dark Tower books. Now, the Man in Black is the servant of the Crimson King, who is like the ultimate evil amongst all these universes, and he wants to destroy the Dark Tower so that he can recreate creation with him as the center. And it also turns out that the Crimson King has these magical orbs, and one of them tricked Roland into killing his own mother. So Roland is trying to write all that stuff with the Dark Tower. Now, in order to track down the tower, Roland has to basically summon 3 people from our world to Roland's world, which might be a dystopian future or an alternate past or some other universe or world. Those people include a boy named Jake, a heroin addict named Eddie, and a disabled black woman with multiple personalities called Susan, or Odetta, or Detta, or later Maya, when she's possessed by a demon. And Roland's this super fucking cool gunslinger guy. He's got awesome shooty powers, then gets his fingers fucking chopped off by this lobster. So he can't shoot any well. So he has to train Eddie and Jake and Susanna to be gunslingers too. And then he has to rely on people, and then they bond, because he never really did that before. He was a loner. Susanna also is possessed by a demon called Maya, and she got implanted by Roland's sperm, which was stolen from him in the first book. And then in the last book, Maya/Susanna gives birth to Mordred, the half-son of both Roland and the Crimson King, and then the son of Susan, and then technically Maya. And he transforms into this spider thing, and Mordred is actually the one who's prophesized to bring down the Dark Tower, working for the Crimson King. Roland, Jake, Eddie, Susanna, and this weird dog raccoon-looking thing called Oi set off to find the Dark Tower. And in order to do that, they have to find one of the beams that holds up the Dark Tower, and which is guarded by this robotic bear. So they find that, and they follow it inward, and they kind of cross over a whole bunch of universes. So they enter this city, Lud, which has this crazy homicidal train called Blaine, which tries to murder them and tell them riddles. And then Eddie defeats it by telling them jokes. Then so they get off the monorail, and they wind up in Kansas in the 1980s during the events of The Stand. And then they travel through Kansas to actually get to the Emerald City from the Wizard of Oz. And it turns out the Wizard of Oz is actually fucking Randall Flagg / Martin / whatever, Martin O'Dim / Broadclove, that guy, the Man in Black. And then they meet Father Callahan, who's from Salem's Lot, who died but got drawn through a portal to Roland's world like Jake did twice. And Callahan has another one of the Crimson King's orbs, but Callahan has actually read the novel Salem's Lot, which was written by Stephen King in this universe. And Roland's group and Callahan have to defend this village from bandits who use lightsabers from Star Wars and snitches from Harry Potter as weapons, because of all possible universes connected by the Dark Tower, these universes exist, and actually name drop Star Wars and Harry Potter, so it's not this suspicious coincidence. One of Susanna's personalities steals this magic orb and then goes to New York, like our New York, legitimate New York, and she hides it in a locker in the World Trade Center, so that gets destroyed in 9/11.
You're gonna like Earth a lot.
And so they have to help this bookstore owner named Tower, who is the owner of this empty lot in New York. They have to save him so he doesn't have to sell it, because in that lot there is this rose that may or may not be the Dark Tower or a manifestation of the Dark Tower. But it's important, they have to save it. They save the lot so that Tower doesn't have to sell it. And then the group tracks down Stephen King, because they know he wrote Salem's Lot. So they think that he might be a god. But in that universe,
to kill
Stephen
Martin, so
King
he
challenges his teacher of the trained King has to go see him
also
so that
he
he
can
can
write
write
the
the fucking
like
clause
metaphor
and
is
thighs
not
out
finished.
of the
Just like
joke.
and
Jake
then
has to
sacrifice himself
that's
to
when
make
they
some
save contact with. So
technically
this is
the
the character from
Gilead.
Gilead.
Insomnia.
So
he's
also
the man in
Mordred,
black.
remember him.
He's
He's
now
an
an
adult
adult
his
mother,
mother, and then helps cause the
he's
fall
Roland.
of Gilead. So we're basically at the end going to this. Basically, Eddie dies, Jake dies, the dog thing, Oi, dies, Mordred kills Flagg, Roland kills Mordred, and finally he gets to the Dark Tower. And so he finally gets to the top of the tower and realizes he's been here several times before, and suddenly he's transported all the way back to the beginning and his memory is wiped. So he begins the whole thing over again. But this time, he has his father's ancient artifact called the Horn of Eld, which, according to a set photo of the new movie, Roland has. So, this isn't really an adaptation, but a sequel of the book series, which means that all of this could be entirely different, kind of like the rebuild of Evangelion movies. And given that Stephen King has treated a picture of a horn with the text last time around, means that this could finally be the time Roland gets a happy ending.
I do not kill with my gun. I kill with my heart.